Hello, it's Spence, the evil genius, with your WordPress tip of the day. Guys, I've got a great lesson for you today that will be an accessory lesson to the custom post type lessons and course that I've previously provided for you. And what I'm going to show you today is really cool because it's an offshoot of the new update to WordPress 3.8, where they implemented a brand new look and feel to the admin dashboard. It's all flat and it's beautiful and it's clean and simple. But one of the things that happens as a result of that is that we've got a dashboard that has a lot of the new tabs looking very much the same. And when you add a custom post type, like we've done in our other lessons, and like we use here at 1WDTV, right? We've got responsive themes, announcements, latest courses, webinars, and so on. By default, they just give you typically the nice little thumbtack, which is nice, but if you have 20 thumbtacks, it doesn't catch your eye. Plus, there are times when you want something a little jazzier, a little colorful, kind of like the Wizard of Oz, you know, the beginning is black and white and then all of a sudden she lands and everything's in color. Well, you know, you might want one of those. And so to show you how to do that, I'm also going to throw in a bonus of showing you how to do a colored icon of your own choosing and where to get an amazing set of almost 3,000 for free. So let's get started. First of all, in the 3.8 update, they have included graciously this amazing built-in flat vector image set, which means that we don't have to load anything else by default. We just have to know what character we want to use. And to reference that, and I'll give you the link to this, we can go to this great Dash Icons website set up at melchoice.github.io/dash icons. That's a mouthful. Don't worry, I'm going to give you the URL. And basically, this is the Dash Icon set that is included inside of WordPress. And the beauty of this is that the syntax is really simple. All we need to do is select an icon that we want to use, then click copy CSS, and it gives us this reference here, /F103. If I chose the paintbrush, it'd be 100. And you can so on and so forth. Each one that you choose gives you the blow up so you can view it, F120. Now, these are vector, so they scale infinitely. That means that they don't take any more weight, but they're beautiful no matter what size. And you can use these in other places in your WordPress site, which I'll show you in another lesson. But today we're just going to put them in the dashboard. Next, for the Wizard of Oz effect, there's no place like home. I would direct you to, I am not even going to pronounce this because this would be so brutal for this gentleman's name, Yusuke. Yusuke Kamiyamani, I think that's as good as I'm going to get, has been so generous as to put this icon set of 3,570 gorgeous icons in 16 by 16 transparent background PNG format. This is an amazing set, and I'm going to show you how you can pick whichever of these icons you want, if you want a colored one, and add it into your WordPress site to use it as a dashboard reference, right? And there's even a little reference PNG here included, although that's not bad, actually. I think this is useful. What I did is a little different. What I did is I went over and downloaded the set, and I loaded them up here in my Mac, and I just scaled the window of the icons big enough to see it. But truthfully, whatever floats your boat, okay? So how do we get this thing rocking and rolling? All right, well, let's talk about that. By default, if you haven't otherwise set it up, the icon is going to be usually the thumbtack, right? But there's a syntax here that we can copy and use again. Now, because we're using the LabZip child theme, this is the way we're going to implement it by using, and I bet you'll guess this, the functions PHP file. Now, just to put your mind at ease, you can do this with any WordPress child theme. You can also use a standalone PHP file if you want and do this as a plugin. And even though I don't recommend it, you can do one of the other ways, which is to use one of the plugins we've shown you in past tutorials that has a standalone functions PHP area to hold some JavaScript or other code like this. But the child theme is really the easiest, so let's not beat around the bush. I'm hoping you're using the child theme. So let's go over to our favorite transit, and inside of WP Content, we're going to go into Themes, our child theme, and then, of course, Functions PHP, which is right here. And I've already opened this up in Sublime Text. And I always end up, for these lessons, putting it at the bottom of the top, right? So right after the top starts, there's this nice section, Add Your Own Custom Functions. I'm putting it right in here. And whoops, went a little fast. Don't worry, as always, I'm going to give this code to you. All you need to do is either be a paid subscriber, or you can, for free, sign up as a member at 1WDTV, and the code box here will show itself very clearly, like magic, without any other further payment. So we're creating a very simple function here, and if you've been with me before, I try to teach this in Lego block fashion, right? So what do we have first is this starts with an action. That's the thing that implements the function. But before we get to that actual action, let's talk about the function that we've set up. So here's the function itself, and we've called this lab post icons. You could call it anything you want. You'll notice though that what's nice here, my text editor does me the favor of highlighting the function action, right? So you can see that I've got, as I'll tell you in a second, this in both areas so that it knows what to trigger. Now the function itself is really, really simple. All we're saying is we've got a function, and again, here's where it starts because the starting bracket, but then I have to close off the PHP for a second because what I want to do is give it some HTML to put inside of the working site in the area where it will affect the admin dashboard. So I have to close the PHP. Sort of like if you're walking down the street and you're a bilingual person. Let's say you speak Spanish and English. You're talking to your friend in English, and then you come up to somebody who speaks Spanish and you want to say hi in native language. You might just hold your hand very politely to your friend in English, say, "Excuse me one moment, I need to speak in Spanish." And then you go and talk in Spanish, blah, 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 blah. And then when you're done, you say, "Okay, I'm done," and hold your hand back up and say, "Let's start talking in English again." Okay, so that's what this does. We're in PHP because the whole thing starts in PHP. PHP. "Excuse me one second, I need to speak to my friend." And here you talk to your friend in HTML. "Excuse me one second, I'm ready to start talking to you again in PHP," and so on down the rest of the way. So that's how that works. Now, what are we adding in? It's very basic. We're putting in a style declaration that indicates what it is and that it's basically designed for screen. It's not designed for print or any other kind of storage. And then we put in the meat and potatoes. Now, I've got 3 individual element attributes here. And basically, they're very similar. They're almost a mirror image. But the top 3 use the built-in flat vector icon set from WordPress, and the bottom one uses the custom. Okay, and I'm just going to walk you through there. All we needed to do is determine what the unique ID was of each of these list items, and we reference it here. You'll notice ID of menu post responsive themes, then we've got menu post announcements, and then we've got menu post latest course. And then lastly, on the fourth one, we've got menu post webinars. And these correspond to these various custom post types, right? Responsive themes, announcements, latest course, webinars. Let's use our handy inspector and take a look at what we've got here. If we look closely at the code, we can see if we go up here to the list item that highlights responsive theme, that right here we've got the same class, which is this menu icon post. But then here's the ID. Menu post responsive themes. And this is unique for each of these list items. Menu post announcements, right? Menu posts webinars. And I'll highlight it so you can see it even more clearly. And that's what corresponds here to the various unique IDs that we've put up, right? So menu post webinars, and then it's got the class, like all of them do, of menu icon post. So this is how we set up the structure, and all of our designs here are Lego blocks. So you're not going to have to do any of this coding by hand. You're just going to tweak it yourself. So when you set it up in your site, you can use one of these or all 4 of them, or copy and paste, do more of them. But the bottom line is you're just going to set up the style sheet declaration and the end of that style sheet. Then you're going to add in this syntax here from the top line, and you'll put in your own particular custom post type ID. Then you're going to put in content : and then the ID number that references that particular icon that you've chosen from the dash icons. Okay? And like we showed you before, you just roll your mouse, click on it, copy the CSS, there's the number right there that you need. Okay. Now, how did I do the other one? Well, the other one was pretty simple too, but it just requires another step. I need to open up my transit again, and inside of the LabZip child theme, or in most child themes, will be an images folder. And what I did is I just dragged in Magic Wand, right? You can see here Magic Wand, or I'm sorry, Wand Magic. And how I did that was I downloaded the icon set and I picked the one that I wanted. Could have been anything, but in this case I went to Wand Magic somewhere over here. There's so many in here that are beautiful. I forgot where it is, but let's know where. There we go, Wand Magic. And I just literally dragged this over into this area here, right? And if you want to see how I would do that, I would just, here we go. Let's say I do Wand Hat, right? Drag it over into the images folder, and it's done. In this case, I got to make sure that I actually was in that folder. So just to be fair, I'm going to open that up, and let's make sure we really got it in there. Okay, so now we got Wand Hat. Now, just to prove a point that that's the case, I'm going to show you Sublime Text. Here's how we do the syntax of that. Everything about identifying the element is the same, but when we go for the attribute of content, now we're going to reference not this built-in vector icon code, but instead we're going to reference the URL where we just dropped that new file. And to do that, we basically use the same syntax. It's URL, and then it's got a beginning and an end ellipse to contain it. Now, here's a cool little snip of PHP. Whenever we are using a child theme, we can access the directory of the active child theme with this snippet of PHP. So put this one in your little toolkit. We are going to say PHP echo and then reference a function built into WordPress called get stylesheet directory URI. The difference between using the child theme and using a parent theme would be that we wouldn't say get stylesheet directory, we would say get template directory URI if we were in a parent situation. But since we're in a child theme, we say get stylesheet directory URI, and that function will call up our active child theme, right? It's going to call up basically our URL / WP content / themes / responsive LabZip bootcamp, and it will put that in there all automatically. Then I have a / images because we're inside of our child theme, inside of this images folder, and then we're at the point where we've got the actual image, which I did Wand Magic. Now, just to prove how easy this is, once we got the syntax down, remember I just dragged something in. So I did Wand Hat. Let's change it. Why not? So we're going to change this to Wand Hat. And I'm going to save it. And then at the end, by the way, we've got some other CSS that we would normally use whenever we're using an image background. So we say no repeat because we don't want it to be just repeating the, tiling in the background. And then we also set in our X and Y parameters so that we've got it positioned appropriately. And last but not least, unfortunately, in order to override the default thumbtack, we do have to use the declaration of important, which is not a big deal, but it's just necessary. Otherwise, if you don't put it in there, the vector icon by default will remain the thumbtack or whatever it is that's by default for your custom post type. Now, we close up that style sheet, go back to talking PHP, close off that function, and we're golden. That's the snippet of code. Now, let's go back, look at our dashboard, refresh, and this little wand should change to the top hat. As soon as it reloads. And there it is. There's our little top hat. So guys, I hope you have some fun. This is really powerful, and it's kind of a nice, useful power tool because, if you were doing a custom project for a client and this little snippet of code was utilized, man, their dashboard's not going to look like it does out of the box. They're going to think you are a magician, and you are here at 1WD-TV. This is Spence, the evil genius. I'll see you next time.